All right, so officially welcome. Sally, John,
Hiya.
Hi, Jono.
thanks for
Hi, Sally.
joining. So, Sally, you had a question. Do you mind asking that again?
So, are we here to learn who we really are? So, we come from true awareness. Is ego not the opposite? So, we can learn who we really are.
Well, that is a tempting argument that you don't know who you are when you are that, but it's not ultimately true. So I know the argument. It's kind of, oh well, in order to know who we are, we had to know who we're not. So therefore, we invented the ego, and so the ego helps us to know who we are. Well, once you've done this crazy thing, then yes, your only job is to undo the ego and remember who you are. That's why we're here. But this was not by some grand design. It wasn't like, oh, God's saying, okay, well, we need to do this so you know who you are, because God has no awareness of anything else. So you know who you are perfectly when you are in God, with God, as God or love created you. And that's a whole complete state. It does not require the opposite to know itself, because that would make the opposite necessary and real, wouldn't it?
Mm.
So it's a seductive argument, but it makes duality real. And it seems to justify the dualistic world that we live in. Oh, well, this is all necessary to know ourselves. We need to lose ourselves. Well, this is not course teaching. Jesus is saying it's just madness. This whole thing place is insanity. You had a crazy idea, you believed it, you've gone down this whole track, and it's taken you into this very dark place and state of mind where you're really not happy, and now you feel lost and alone and afraid, and you're seeking and never finding the answer. And the way out of this is simply to return your mind to its original state before the idea of separation. And that's what this whole path is about. And then you can say, well, the ego is necessary in order to have this whole journey and then fully know myself. You could say that, but that has nothing to do with God. That's your own interpretation of it. It's actually pure formless awareness of perfect love is complete unto itself. There is nothing required to be added to it or taken away from it. It's a whole complete state, and our job is just simply to return our minds to that, to remember it, because that's the only thing that's going to work.
You just spend a lot of the course talking about the ego.
He does. Well, because he's got to help us undo it. If he doesn't talk about it and get us to see, what it is and how this thing works, and how are we going to let it go? It's a paradox. If it was easy, you'd just say, well, God is. One lesson. Well, you are as love created you. You are as God created you. But he knows that the ego is very deeply entrenched, and so it's gonna be that. It's gonna be many lessons, and it's got to be repeated over and over, and lots of mind training, because we don't believe it. We've denied it so thoroughly to put ourselves into this human condition that it's going to require this kind of level of exposing of the ego and mind training to undo it, to help us. So that's why, because it's actually quite difficult to talk about love. Like, what do you say about it? It's like pure formless awareness. It just is. It's very difficult to describe it. You can talk about love and peace and joy, and he does, the glory of salvation and this kind of language. But it's really just an inner state that you will experience when you've let go of ego, when there's no belief in separation anymore. Then this will be your state. So saying, okay, well, let's focus on the block to the awareness of love's presence. We'll bring that into awareness, and we'll help you let it go. And then these transcendent states will be yours, because that's all that's going to be left. That's the approach. So it's like a cutting away. You don't have to become anything. You already are pure formless awareness, the perfect love. But you have all kinds of blocks to that awareness. And so remove the blocks, and then, this awareness will be restored. That's the idea. So does that answer your question, Sally? I
It's
hope.
more like an awareness journey, isn't it? It's more like if you're not aware of your beliefs, then you can't let them go or change them or reprogram yourself. So it's really awareness of what you're actually thinking and creating. And then you wake up from the dream.
Yeah. So awareness is step one, and then choice is step two, to consciously choose the opposite. If it's something that's not serving you, you recognize it for what it is. Look, this is ego. These thoughts, these emotions don't serve me. It's all part of the belief in separation. I've identified that clearly. Then the choice becomes obvious. With that awareness, you're like, well, of course I'm going to choose against it. Of course I'm going to choose to let those go, because I understand what these do. But if you don't understand, then you continue on thinking that this thought system of the ego is going to work. And so this mind training is saying, no, he's trying to train us. Look, this really isn't going to work. And I'm going to show you exactly why it was not going to work. We're going to go into great detail about, the so-called ego dynamics of how this belief works in your mind and in your life to really sabotage it and create enormous pain and suffering. And then you're just going to give it up willingly, because you're going to go, that's just insane. Why would I choose that when I can have perfect love and pure formless awareness instead? And so it makes that choice very conscious, brings it into conscious awareness. It says, look, this is the choice, and you have this choice in every situation. You can choose to see it differently. And that's where it gets really practical, because it's not just the high metaphysics of, we're going to be in a bliss state all the time. It's like, no, you're dealing with perception here, what's going on in the world, in your life, and you have a choice as to how you see that, how you perceive it. And that's moment by moment. You have these choices through the day. Which thought system are you believing in? And, that's going to determine the direction of your mind. Are you going back to oneness? Is it the at-one-ment process working in you? Or are you going more into separation with your thinking? And that's putting you in a helpless, enervated little life, hell. And he's making that a very clear-cut choice in your mind. Okay, I have a choice right now. How do I want to see this situation? So that's very practical and very helpful in daily life. And it's also the training in the undoing of this belief system that you need. So slowly you unpicking the this deeply entrenched belief system that's run your life and runs the world, and just unpacking it and saying, no, actually I'm seeing how this works, and I don't buy it anymore. I don't want this. This is not something I can consciously choose, because you can't consciously choose the ego. You just can't be conscious and choose it. It's be like, why would I choose insanity? You can only choose it if you're unconscious. So the ego only remains in your mind because you're ignorant of the truth and you don't realize you have a choice. And there's no awareness. Your awareness is so limited that you only know the ego's way. So what he's doing is expanding awareness and saying, no, actually there's another way. There's another way of looking at this, to quote another course lesson. There's always another way, and I'm going to offer it to you. I'm going to give you this other way through this course, and if you continue on with it, you will make the correct choice. It's inevitable. The course is designed to help you to make the correct choice in all the situations that present themselves. And that's how we heal.
It seems
That's
like
how we do the work.
Seems like quite a slow journey of changing each thought. Each hour, each half an hour. it feels like there must be a shortcut there somewhere. I like shortcuts. And so it's like I've cleared on like the ego and letting go of the ego and separation and resisting oneness and all these sort of kind of more broad aspects. You know, I just would like to know if there was, like, the day when I realized it's all about perception, it's just a perception problem. It's like I spent the whole day in bliss that day. It was like, oh my God, yes, it's just that. And I felt like I found the meaning of life. And then the next day it all kind of changes again, and there's another layer to it all. And I'm always looking for that kind of broad stroke, that kind of, how do we overall change this?
I'm not sure there is one. I mean, he would have given it to us if there is one. You know, it's like a magic pill that you can just go, there we go. You know, one shot, one shot and you're done. The ego's done with. Because it's in our belief, and our belief comes into our mind in many ways in our daily life. You know, every thought, every emotion, even every physical sensation you have is tied into a belief system. This is what he's saying. So it's become, the ego has become fundamental to our existence here. We've relied on this belief to give us supposed existence and life. He's going, okay, well, you know, it's going to take a bit of undoing because it's so deep. I mean, look at, we've invented an entire world, an entire universe. My goodness. I mean, that's just extraordinary to have done that, to confirm a belief. That's what the whole thing is about. The world, the universe, is a projection of the belief in separation. Now you think you're a body, and you're born into this. You know, you seem to be a body. That's what seems to be the new reality for you. So it's a very deeply entrenched belief. It's like, okay, well, it's going to take a bit of undoing, you know, and it's daily practice, moment by moment, because these beliefs show up in all kinds of ways. And so he's got a very detailed course, because, you know, he knows how deep-seated the ego is, and all the different mechanisms and ways and, you know, circuitous routes it takes. He's going, yeah, well, you know, I'm going to help you to undo, to really become aware of all of that. And there's just no way you can do that in one day. It's like, it's just, well, the ego is a very complex thought system. So he's unpacking it over a year for us. It's a 1-year course, and then if you do the other bits, the text and the manual for teachers, and we'll do the supplements, and you do it daily like we're doing it, you know, you break it down. It's like a 1-year program. 1-year deep dive into your mind to really unpack the ego's thought system, really see it, an expose of the ego, we could call it. And then, you know, over 1 year, you can certainly make, I mean, look at you've had shifts in 10 days or 11 days. Well, if you keep doing this for a year, who knows, you know, what, you might be completely enlightened in a year. You never know. It does happen. One doesn't know. But generally, for most people, it's an ongoing process, because these beliefs are deep-seated, and, you know, you think, okay, I've handled the ego now, and and then it comes up again. No, well, you haven't quite handled it, because that, you know, there's clearly a resistance there. There's part of that belief system coming in, and there's a friction. Whenever you've got conflict in your mind, then you haven't handled it, because there's a conflict between two thought systems. So then, okay, we'll go back to the course and apply the lessons again, and just do it again and again and again. Clean your mind over and over. And eventually, if you keep doing that over the rest of your life, your mind is in such a clean, clear state that when you're finally ready to let the body go, it's like it's over. There's no need to come back into another body and, you know, have another life. Why would you? Your mind is healed. There's no desire for separation anymore. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get us to make that ultimate choice, so that there's no, you know, residual desire to return into a body and into a world that makes no sense. Okay, so should we have a little look at today's quote, and then just a bit of reading on some of this, because I actually talk about desire quite a bit here, so that's worth reading, and then we'll go into the lesson. So, Sally, do you want to read the quote and then the first couple of paragraphs, please?
Be who God meant you to be, and you will set the world on fire. Today's inspirational quote by Saint Catherine of Siena, a Christian mystic, author, and saint, is one that can light your inner fire. So you radiate the light of truth and the love of God into the world to inspire, heal, and bless whoever you meet or even think about. This inner fire of inspiration has a power far greater than mere motivation, which is defined as a reason or reasons for acting or behaving in a particular way. In the personal growth industry, it is more specifically thought of as the will to act based on the desire to attain a specific goal.
Okay, so any thoughts on that?
Well, the inner fire feels really, I can kind of feel it. I really find that really exciting. Nice to be driven by that inner fire rather than the outer fire or outer desire or whatever you call it, goal.
Yeah. Inspiration will beat motivation every time.
Yeah.
Because it's coming from a deeper part of your mind. So it's inside out. You're now feeling inspired rather than, oh, I want an end goal, and I think that end goal is going to make me happy. This is the traditional motivation. Oh, yes, I want to achieve my goal. Why? Because the assumption is that it's going to make me happy. I'll be in a better state when I achieve my goal. It's the unwritten assumption behind this whole, personal growth industry, which I know quite well because I've studied it, and I started my whole journey and very much in that, like, what the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve, Napoleon Hill, this kind of stuff. And then you really question it at some point and go, well, is this actually true? Like when I had my major letting go opportunities was to, let go of my dream to be a champion squash player. And it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because I was like, whoa, like I've really believed this thought system and it's failed me. It hasn't worked. I really did it. I mean, I properly did that. I was affirming. I was doing my goals. I was goal setting. I was, working hard at it, and I it just didn't work. And I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something else. Maybe I'm missing something here. It really made me question the whole thought system of, and when you really do questions, you go, well, I assumed that achieving that goal would make me happier. But actually, was that a valid assumption? No, it actually wasn't, because I wasn't very happy in the pursuit of it. It was always striving. One day when I get there, never like just being happy in the moment, because it's always this future goal. For years, 15 years, I lived like that. No. One day when I'm a champion, then everything's going to be, and this is the way the ego sets it up. And so I'm very grateful that I failed, actually. In hindsight, it wasn't a nice experience at the time, but I probably wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing. My original intention was, no, I'm gonna do this, become a champion. Then I'll on the back of that, I'll become a motivational speaker, because then I'll have had the success behind me, and I'll travel the world, all of this. And actually, the Holy Spirit had other plans. He's like, no, that's not how it's going to work. Life happens when you're making other plans. So there's another way, and this is the inspiration we're talking about, which isn't so much you're in charge. It's just listening to there's like an inner fire burning in your heart that's saying, do that, and there's no necessarily form outcome out of it. It's just like do it because it feels right to do it. That's the fire. That's inspiration rather than motivation. So now you're not driven by the outside goal. It's inside out. It's an internal impulse fire, we call it, that's saying, yeah, do it. And you don't really understand what the outcome's going to be. But if you trust and you do it, then obviously there'll be outcomes. But it's not outcome driven. It's driven by the Spirit, and it's driven by the process of it. So you're now in the flow of it, and you really, you enjoy the process. It's not like, oh, I need to get somewhere in order to finally arrive at happiness. It's like I actually enjoy the process of this unfolding. That's the point. Whereas the goal setting idea, setting it up and then saying, one day I'll get there. It's always deferring it into happiness into the future, isn't it?
Mm.
So as I say, John, do you want to read the next couple of paragraphs?
Yeah.
From In This Motivational World.
In this motivational world, the emphasis is on doing something to attain a future goal that is seen as desirable and worth the time and effort it takes to achieve it. So the goal is made more important than the process of doing whatever needs to be done to attain it. This means that conventional motivation is based on desire and fear, because there is always a fear when you ardently desire something that you won't attain it, and that you'll then be disappointed or diminished in some way.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep. I mean, that's all what you've been saying, really.
And well, we'll get there, but Jesus talks about seeking and not finding as the ego's program. So you're motivated because it's like a carrot. Well, one day, if I do this, the ego tells you, one day you'll be happy. Not now. We're never going to give you happiness now. But one day, when you achieve the goal that I've set up for you, then you'll get to it. And of course, one day never arrives because it's always in the future. And you've got this fear always going on. When I was very deeply attached to this egoic goal of being a champion, there was a huge amount of fear underlying. So, well, what if I fail? Like I need to be number one. Well, what if I'm not? So then you're facing that doubt and that fear all the time. And if I'd lose to someone I didn't feel I should have lost to, it was just so devastating, so disappointing, because I'd be like, my whole ego identity is at stake. And it's a very, very hard way to live. It was very like self-punishing, really, to have to deal with all these dark emotions all the time. There's not a lot of lightness and joy. It was kind of like I was grinding my way through this to one day I'll get there. Like salvation is when I become champion. When I lift that trophy, and which is what a lot of people do. Especially like we call highly motivated people, sports people, champions. You really put in a lot of effort. And the reason they're doing it is because one day they've set up a thing in their mind. Well, when I achieve that, then then I'll be happy. But am I actually happy in the process of it? And one wonders. I know around the Olympics last year they interviewed some of these athletes, and they didn't seem to be very happy. A lot of them. There's a huge amount of stress that this profession of theirs is causing them, because it's all about the end goal. The Olympics is the deal. We work to that, and our entire life is dedicated towards a moment in the future when we'll attain glory. But in the interim, I'm not necessarily very happy training myself silly for 6 or 8 hours a day. But it's a thought system, isn't it? You see it playing out in places like that in the world, based on this idea that one day in the future I'll be happy. But it's fear and desire. So do you want to read the next paragraph, Sonny? Fear and desire have never been a recipe.
Fear and desire have never been a recipe for happiness, as the Buddha noticed 2,500 years ago when he stated what became the second noble truth of Buddhism, that desire, or tanha in Pali, which literally means thirst, and it is best translated into the English word craving, is the source of all suffering, because it makes you feel dissatisfied with what you're experiencing right now, which the Buddha called dukkha, and which became the first noble truth of Buddhism, and sets up a mental game in which you can never find satisfaction in the present moment, but only in the future, which of course never arrives, thus ensuring that you will never be happy. Blimey.
This is Buddhism 101. This is what he noticed. Said, okay, everyone's dissatisfied. He called it dukkha. It's kind of just unhappy. Life is not satisfying. Just moment by moment, I'm not happy. Which 2,500 years ago, I observed that, and I'd say, you can observe that today. There's just this undercurrent of unhappiness and discontent in most people's lives. They're not really happy with their current state of life. So that's the first noble truth. Okay, well, this unhappiness seems to be part of life. So then what's the way out of it? Well, the way out of it is to recognize the cause of it. And he said desire is the cause of it. If you're constantly desiring something that's outside of you that you don't have, really what you're saying to yourself is, I'm not okay as I am. In other words, translated into our course language, I am not as God created me. That's what you're saying when you're desiring something else. And the whole thing, this illusion of time-space, was kicked off by desire. It was a tiny mad idea, a desire for something else to happen. So go to descent and hell diagram. What was the thought of separation but a desire for some other state of mind? So that's the origin of it all. This desire, and then that plays out in our lives as a desire for something else. Oh, I'm not happy as I am. I need it to be some other way than what it is. So by doing that, you deny that you are okay as you are. Your beingness is denied in that, and the mind is saying, no, there's a better state, and of course that state's not now. It's going to happen in future. So now you set up time, and so you can start to see this is how the mind plays out, and this is why we have time, and this is why we have this whole crazy construct we caught up in. Because of these thoughts, it's all been invented by the ego as a thought system to replace pure formless awareness or God or love, which is perfect as it is. There's nothing you need to desire in that, because it's perfect and whole and complete unto itself. And the moment you desire anything, you're saying, I'm not okay as I am. So then the suffering is perpetuated. Because your suffering comes from the split from this. When you desire something else, you're saying, I'm not okay as I am. And so the denial of your true identity is inherent in desire and fear. It moves you away from your true nature, which is what the Buddha noticed, and what Yeshua says as well. He calls the desire idle wishes in the Course, and aversion, which is kind of resistance to whatever's happening, that's a grievance. So idle wishes and grievances are desire and aversion, craving and aversion. So it's the same teaching. It's nothing, just different language. But these two masters living 500 years apart saw pretty much the same thing, and they just expressed it in different ways. So this is why Yeshua says in the recent section of the ACM text, which I don't know if you read, but it's worth having a read. This is one of the most quoted things in the Course, same curriculum, that seek and do not find. Maybe, John, do you want to read that paragraph, number 7?
Yeah, I have said that the ego's rule is seek and do not find. Translated into circular terms, this means
Curricular.
Beg your pardon.
Curricular.
Curricular terms. This
Although
means,
it is actually circular.
yeah, I was thinking that's an interesting word.
Spinning yourself around, going nowhere. Yeah.
Try to learn but do not succeed. The result of this curriculum goal is obvious. Every legitimate teaching aid, every real instruction, and every sensible guide to learning will be misinterpreted, since they are all for facilitating the learning of this strange curriculum is against. Since they are all for facilitating the learning this strange curriculum is against. If you are trying to learn how not to learn, and the aim of your teaching is to defeat itself, what can you expect but confusion? Such a curriculum does not make sense. This attempt at learning has so weakened your mind that you cannot love. For the curriculum you have chosen is against love and amounts to a course in how to attack yourself. A supplementary goal in this curriculum is learning how not to overcome the split that makes its primary aim believable. And you will not overcome the split in this curriculum, for all your learning will be on its behalf. Yet your mind speaks against your learning, as your learning speaks against your mind. And so you fight against all learning and succeed for that is what you want. But perhaps you do not realize even yet that there is something you want to learn, and that you can learn it because it is your choice to do so. So,
telling us pretty straight there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every legitimate teaching aid, every real instruction, and every sensible guide to learning will be misinterpreted. Since they're all for facilitating the learning this strange curriculum is against. To learn what you're not, to learn how not to learn. If you're trying to learn how not to learn, the aim of your teaching is to defeat itself. What can you expect but confusion? Such a curriculum does not make sense. So he's just, highlighting the total futility of the ego's curriculum. That you can't really learn anything, and it's very, very frustrating. I chose that picture because, like, we all know that. It's like, oh, I just can't figure this out. It's just not working. We hold our heads in despair and frustration. It's like, why is this not working? I'm saying, well, this is why it's not working. Because you're trying to learn what's impossible to learn. You can't learn separation. It's not a true idea. So then he continues. My little thing. Do you want to read this paragraph, Sally?
If this sounds like a futile, frustrating, and ultimately depressing way to try and learn, it's because it is just that. By contrast, in the curriculum taught by the Holy Spirit, or remembrance of oneness, we feel an inner impulse or fire within that inspires us to act certain ways, not because we want a final outcome, but because it feels right in our hearts to act this way. And so this inner fire is based completely on the present moment or the now, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, rather than the past or future, the consciousness of which attaches you firmly to the linear timeline.
We'll have a little look at this. I decided to put this online. So I've showed you this before, I think. Have you seen this diagram?
Yeah.
So this puts us on this timeline. The more we focus on the past and the future, the more real our so-called dream life, our character becomes. And all these, this red timeline and all the events on the timeline are become seemingly our life. This is what our life is made up of. And we need some kind of salvation in the future. Never going to be now, but sometime when we do something. I mean, you look at the stages of our life. When I get married, and then you do get married, and then it doesn't necessarily work, and you have a messy divorce. Well, when I finally succeed in my business, when I retire, and of course, eventually when I die. And so the ego just roots us on this timeline through time-bound consciousness, and keeps us far away from eternity, in the way that eternity translates into our experience in this world is being present now. That's eternity. It's no time. Eternity means no time. So that's how the now being in. That's why all the spiritual teachers and teachings talk about being in the now, or the present, because it's when you're in that eternal state of mind. There's not a time consciousness. So that's how we learn eternity in this world, is through being present. And taking ourselves away from the past. So we forgive the past, let it go, because it doesn't really exist. And we stop looking to the future for some kind of expiation and some kind of salvation, because it doesn't exist. It's just it's an idea, it's a mental thought. And we focus on what's right here, right now. Well, what's right here, right now is this presence of who you really are. Which leads us nicely into our lesson. Who you really are is as God or love or eternity or pure formless awareness or knowledge, whichever one of those pointers to this presence you want to use. That's what you are right now. So why can't you just rest in that knowledge right now? And you can. This is what all the the masters are saying. You can. It just takes mind training, because your mind is so used to the time-bound consciousness, time, past, future, that it gets very easily sidetracked, and rooted onto the timeline. So this is all about raising yourself above the timeline. Okay, and then John, if you want to read the next paragraph, results in selfless action.
Which one? Oh yeah, it results in selfless action because there is no identification with what the doer thinks should be the outcome. That would make him or her happier. One Zen master summarizes this philosophy succinctly in 4 simple words: no self, no problem. So, genuine inspiration lifts you above the battleground of linear time, as Jesus put it so eloquently in the Course, and helps you to become aware again of eternity. From this eternal state of mind, you can still act very effectively in this world if you tune into the guidance of the Holy Spirit, or awareness of oneness, which can translate this non-dual transcendent identity into practical actions that do not have the self-seeking profit motive that characterizes all the ego's motivations.
Okay, makes sense. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I like this idea of, from this eternal state of mind, you can still act very effectively in this world. Take guidance from awareness of oneness.
Well, this is the blue arrows in this diagram. So you forgive, you let go of the ego's interpretation. That's what it means. So whatever the negative thoughts and emotions are, you let those go. You go into a state of higher awareness, pure formless awareness. Your mind is clear, empty, open. And now you look at the situation again, and whatever comes in that kind of empty state is guidance. And that comes in many ways. It could come as just a thought you have. It could come as someone shows up and says something to you, as you kind of read something, and it's just like, yeah, that's what I should do. Happens in many ways, but it requires a clearing first. You've got to empty your mind first of all the ego's nonsense, because that keeps you inturbulated. You can't then allow this pure formless awareness to come in and reinterpret the situation for you. So this is why it's very practical, because you will actually get specific guidance from the Holy Spirit, the awareness of oneness. It's going to come from this source, a true source, rather than the ego, which you notice is very disconnected. There's no like source to it. It's just like, yeah, there's this arrow starting and there's no source. It's just like, so these blue arrows are what you want to listen to, coming in to reinterpret every situation and circumstance, and give you guidance as to what to do. It can be very, 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 very helpful, very practical. It's a translation of this, above the battleground, non-dual into the world, its dualistic world, and this is the Holy Spirit's role. This is why the Course is really practical, because this idea of the Holy Spirit allows you to listen to guidance and to actually act in different ways based on this guidance. which then guides you in a very different way through your life. So instead of going, well, I'm rooted in past and future, and I think I'm going to have some kind of salvation in the future, I'm present now. I just let it go now, and I can actually be happy now, irrespective of what's going on. And then I allow that flow state to guide me forward. Okay, well, from that happy, inspired state, what should I do? And then just kind of unfolds. And you can certainly do things on the level of form. It's not saying you're gonna sit and just meditate all day. Take my example, coming back to run a retreat. Well, a few months ago, that wasn't even on the cards. I hadn't even thought about it. There was no I'm just running my program, doing my thing, and then it just starts unfolding. And you go, okay, well, let's go with it. That feels right. It feels good. And so something then on the level of form unfolds, but it's inspired rather than, oh, no, I want to run a retreat because I want some end goal or outcome. So it's the being process oriented and being, yes, now I'm being guided now by the spirit rather than being driven by some kind of future goal, which the ego set up as your salvation. When you get that, oh, that's going to be amazing. Then you'll be, then you'll be sorted. Then you'll be happy. And you got to watch your mind for that kind of thinking, because it's quite pervasive in this world, and it's what the ego likes you to do. So if you start going off into future and going, oh yeah, no, that'll be amazing. No, bring myself back now. What does it feel like now? Does it feel good now? Yeah. Actually, I'm in the flow. I can just enjoy the process. And if I'm in a flow state and I'm enjoying the process, then the outcomes kind of take care of themselves, because in that the quality of your action in the flow state is high quality action. So whatever you're doing is going to tend to be much more effective. And so then outcomes come on the level of form. Yeah, you act in that way, outcomes are going to come, but it's being inspired by the spirit. So this is why inspiration trumps motivation every day. It gives you access to a power that the ego just doesn't have. Ego is always gonna it can do things, but it's gonna be characterized by stressing, straining, and striving. It's a triple S program, the ego. Stressing, straining, and striving. So you might eventually get to your goal, but oh man, is there a price to pay? And this is the kind of the typical A-type personality in this world. This is what they do, like grind, push, strive, and then often they hit burnout. It's like, well, it's just not sustainable, because there's all this negative emotional energy that goes around it. Whereas if you're doing it with the spirit, it's pretty effortless. It's like you're in a flow state, you're being inspired, you're guided, you're enjoying the process, and the outcomes unfold. And there's no attachment to them. It's like, well, if it's not about the outcome and it's about the process, then I can be happy now. Doesn't matter what the outcome is. Okay, so I think that brings us to the lesson today. I see Sally just disappeared, so we'll carry on without her. So if you want to just read the key idea, John, and then we'll go into the lesson.
I am as God, perfect love created, extended me.
Okay. So read this paragraph.
Today we continue with the one idea which brings complete salvation. The one statement which makes all forms of temptation powerless. The one thought which renders the ego silent and entirely undone. You are as God created you. The sounds of this world are still. The sights of this world disappear. And all the thoughts that this world ever held, are wiped away forever by this one idea. Here is salvation accomplished. Here is sanity restored. Or,
right. Alternatively,
today we continue with the one idea which brings complete awakening, the one statement which makes all forms of temptation powerless, the one thought which renders the belief in separation silent and entirely undone. You are as pure formless awareness of perfect love extended you. The sounds of this world are still, the sights of this world disappear, and all the thoughts that this world ever held are wiped away forever by this one idea. Here is awakening accomplished. Here is sanity restored.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
I think it's this very, very strong overall statement that I am as God created me. That's what it's focusing on, bringing us back to again, really.
Hmm.
You know, and it's saying, well, you know, if we focus on that, then the noise disappears.
Hmm. We're saying this is like the eraser. This one idea is going to erase the entire dream of time and space. All the sights, all the sounds, all the thoughts that this world ever held are wiped away, kind of cleaning the slate forever by this one idea. Quite a powerful idea. You know, I am as perfect love extended me. So I am this pure formless awareness. I am this presence. That's what I am, and nothing else. And everything else I've invented means nothing. This is what the idea is saying. And when you fully accept this, salvation or awakening is accomplished. If you fully accept it, then you're awake and your sanity is restored to you've been restored to your true mind. Okay, you want to give a little summary of that? Or any questions?
I think just saying that, you know, when we remember who we really are, the world, the sounds of the world disappear, and
He's pointing to us to this transcendent state. Beyond all illusions. This is revelation. Sounds of this world are still, sights of this world disappear. So you're not in this world anymore. It disappears and you go into another reality. And all the thoughts that this world ever held are wiped away by this one idea. So kind of a powerful idea. Sort of the essence of the whole course, really. You know, you are still as your source created you. And nothing's really changed. And our only challenge is to accept that.
Yep.
Okay, happy to move on.
Yep.
Sally, do you want to read number 2 for us, please?
True light is strength, and strength is sinlessness. If you remain as God created you, you must be strong and light must be in you. He who ensured your sinlessness must be the guarantee of strength and light as well. You are as God created you. Darkness cannot obscure the glory of God's Son. You stand in light, strong in the sinlessness in which you were created, in which you will remain throughout eternity. Alternatively, true awareness is strength. Strength is sinlessness. If you remain as pure, formless awareness of perfect love extended you, you must be strong, and the true awareness must be in you. Pure, formless awareness of perfect love ensured your sinlessness, and so must be the guarantee of strength and true awareness as well. You are as pure, formless awareness of perfect love extended you. Limited awareness cannot obscure the magnificence of pure love's extension. You stand in true awareness, strong in the sinlessness in which you were extended, and in which you will remain throughout eternity.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
It reminds me of presence work. I do a lot of presence work with groups where we just stay in the now, and you know, we don't go forwards or backwards in time, and we just stay and become aware of our bodies and our thoughts. And that's where you are, isn't it? You're in that pure formless awareness of perfect love. Yeah.
Amazing state to be in.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how difficult it is to be there. You know, people fight it. They don't want to go there. They say they don't know how to do it. And it really, to pin people down to actually sit there and be in the present moment, it's astounding.
Yeah. But if you understand the ego, then it's not so astounding, because you're like, well, that's that presence of this pure formless awareness of perfect love, as we call God, is its end. Right? There's no dysfunction there. There's no separate identity. There's no fear. There's no guilt. It's just a pure state of being, and there's nothing for it there. It doesn't exist there. So it finds it incredibly threatening. So what it's then got to do is, no, not that. Carry on in the illusion of, you know, thinking about time and space and past, future, and yourself and your problems, because that's what it's addicted to. That way of thinking. It's just if it's just a belief, it's useful to translate ego as, you know, the belief in separation. If it's just a belief system, then it's made up of a bunch of thoughts and emotions. That's all it's made up of. But those thoughts and emotions are not true. This is all Jesus is trying to tell us. None of it's true. And only this pure formless awareness is true. Did I tell you about the sort of mystic experience I had at the end of my Vipassana retreat?
Yeah.
So it was just so clear to me that this is what we've done. We've just covered it all over. This truth of pure formless awareness has been covered over by this dense fog of ego ideas, and the world is a justification for those ideas. And that's why we've invented an external world, because it justifies the ego's thought system. So the illusion is bound up with your false self-concept, which is really all Jesus is saying, you know. So go to the self-concept, look at that, let it go to the light of pure formless awareness, and there's no need for the illusion anymore. It's not required. It's not necessary. Then, you know, then the dream is over. Once you understand this, you're like, well, there's no point to this place. The only point was to cover over pure formless awareness, perfect love, and why would I do that when it's, you know, it's actually everything I want? So there's the choice again.
So are there people in the world that are living in pure formless awareness of perfect love?
A few, yeah. Probably not very many. All the time. Very difficult to stay there, you know, in especially if you kind of operating in the world. So the people who you know probably stay there the most might be monks, people who've removed themselves a bit from society. They spend long periods in meditation. But even they, you know, they'd probably admit, like, well, I'm not always there. I have times where, yeah, I can go deep in meditation and really experience the bliss of pure formless awareness. But then, you know, I come out of that, and then I'm dealing with ego issues in the monastery, because it happens everywhere. And so then, you know, my mind gets. So I don't think in this world, and Jesus even says it's not that realistic to expect that you're going to be in that state all the time, because you'll have fluctuations and variations.
It's a lovely feeling when you go back to it, though, isn't it? When you leave it and then you come back to it, there's such bliss in that.
Yeah, but you can always return, saying, well, when you become aware that you know out of that, then return to it. And these lessons are designed to help you to return to it frequently through the day. That's why I'm saying like regular practice. So, you know, you've been doing your thing for an hour, and in that hour, it's very easy for thoughts and emotions to crop up that are egoic. So, okay, we'll return. Just remind yourself of the idea, use the idea to drop back in to a state where you're in this awareness, even briefly, even for a few seconds, a minute, will help. Now you've restored your mind, then okay, I carry on. Now that this underlying awareness, although I'm thinking, I might still be using my mind, and I'm thinking about things in form and time and space. We just had a conversation about visa, so I've got to go fetch my visa tomorrow, my passport, this kind of stuff. It doesn't really particularly bother you, see, because it's really the emotion, it's the thoughts and emotions behind it that are the problem. It's like, oh, now I've got anxiety. Oh, now I'm feeling stressed. That's a problem. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll go pick up my visa. All right, that's what I'll do. Simple, easy, straightforward. Just do it. This is why in a lot of the Eastern teachings, Zen, they say it's the art of doing one thing at a time. So just be very present, very focused on the now. There's no past, there's no future. You're in the moment, you do what's necessary in the now, and then you move on to the next thing. And life is a series of unfolding now moments. And so that keeps you rooted in this consciousness, this pure formless awareness. Much more so than the egoic, oh, now I'm thinking about the past, now I'm thinking about the future, and I'm never present. That's going to keep you away from the present and this presence. You will not find pure formless awareness in the past or the future. It's not possible. So it's just pointing us back to the present moment and saying, you are this, you are that presence. Just accept it moment by moment by moment. That's your only task. And use this idea to bring you back to that awareness. With practice, you stay there more and more. You stay in a happy flow state where you feel like you're guided and everything's kind of flowing forward nicely. And yeah, there's stuff happening in life all the time, apparent challenges, but it doesn't really make you upset, doesn't make you fear, desire. I'm just present, and in the present moment, I'm trusting that I'll get the guidance. What I need to do is going to be given me. I'll have a thought. I'll be guided as to what I should do. And so it's a guidance system. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, is that really possible? But it really is. If you tap into this, you will get guidance on the specifics of your life, because that's just how the Holy Spirit works. It gives you the specific guidance in your life to help you on your path back to this total awareness of oneness. That's what its mission is. The remembrance of oneness is going to guide you back to a state of pure formless awareness, perfect oneness. And it's going to do it moment by moment. And it's going to give you very helpful guidance moment by moment as to what you should think and what you should say and what you could do, what you should do. So you don't need the ego. A lot of people say, well, how am I going to operate without the ego? The ego keeps me alive. The ego tells me to do things. No, you don't. Because the Holy Spirit just reinterprets the ego's domain and gives you the guidance, very practical, so you can still deal with worldly issues, but without all the egoic madness, the fear and the desire, and guilt and attack thoughts and so on that go with the ego. So it's all just been done in a very clear light, enlightenment. It's a light state of being, isn't it? It's not heavy and dark. It's like I'm just light and clear and free, and I kind of float through life, and I'm guided, and there's none of that heaviness that the ego wants you to indulge in. Okay, so happy with number 2?
Yep.
Number 3, John?
You're muted.
Yeah. Muted yourself.
Okay, we'll start again. Today we will again devote the first 5 minutes of each waking hour to the attempt to feel the truth in you. Begin these times of searching with these words. I am as God created me. I am his son eternally. Now try to reach the Son of God in you. This is the self that never sinned, nor made an image to replace reality. This is the self that never left its home in God to walk the world uncertainly. This is the self that knows no fear, nor could conceive of loss or suffering or death. Alternatively, today we will again devote the first 5 minutes of each waking hour to the attempt to feel the truth in you. Begin these times of searching with these words: I am as perfect love extended me. I am its extension eternally. Now try to reach the extension of perfect love in you. This is the self that never sinned, nor made an image to replace reality. This is the self that never left its home in pure formless awareness of perfect love to walk the world uncertainly. This is the self that knows no fear, nor could conceive of loss or suffering or death. Actually, when I read this morning, the bit that really strikes home is this message of making an effort, to really reach the Son of God, pure formless awareness within ourselves. Because I find when I do practice meditation, there is a certain degree of effort, isn't a very good word, but determination that is required for me to really kind of connect and go deeper. And I like how it's put here.
The self never left its home. So he's asking us to connect. That self, capital self, is the Christ. This is the one self that unites us with our home. If we stay in that self concept, higher self concept, then pure formless awareness of perfect love is ours. So the Christ unites you with that state of mind. Hence, Christ leads to God. These are just pointers in the illusion to help you to go back to the state. It's helpful to understand what he really means by these pointers. Christ leads to God. Like if you ask a lot of Christians why, it's a misinterpretation. They go, oh, well, Jesus saved me, he died on the cross, all of this kind of stuff. No, your self-concept, your higher self-concept, which he symbolized, he lived that self. And he showed you, demonstrated the power of that self. That leads you back into the state of pure formless awareness of perfect love. That reunites you with that state, reunites you with God, which is why the higher self, or the Christ, leads you back to God, which is quite useful. I think in the Buddhist teaching, they don't have the idea of self. It's just a state of pure formless awareness, or nirvana. There is no self, which I think for a lot of people that's quite threatening. That's quite a difficult. Okay, I don't exist. there's no self there. Well, okay, so Jesus is saying, no, you do exist. It's just a higher self. It's a self that only knows love. It's a self that only believes in oneness. That's the true self, and that's going to put you, when you identify totally with that, that's going to bring your mind back into a state of pure formless awareness. Does it make sense? Any questions?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to give a little summary of those last couple of lines there? Self had never sinned.
Yeah, I mean, this is reconnection with our self, which is sure and does not have fear, and does not know suffering, and doesn't know death.
Just couldn't conceive of these ideas. So the self that pre-existed the ego. And we are the extension of it. So we changed created to extended, because it's not like you were created at some point and you came into being. It's like this is eternal. What's eternal has always been. So you're just the extension of that eternal presence of love, and that extension is you. That's your true nature, and you simply need to accept it. That you are the extension of love. Okay, happy to move on to number 4, Sally.
Nothing is required of you to reach this goal except to lay all idols and self-images aside. Go past the list of attributes, both good and bad, you have ascribed to yourself, and wait in silent expectancy for the truth. God has himself promised that it will be revealed to all who ask for it. You are asking now. You cannot fail because he cannot fail. Alternatively, nothing is required of you to reach this goal except to lay all false beliefs and self-images aside. Go past the list of attributes, both good and bad, that you have ascribed to yourself, and wait in silent expectancy for the truth. Pure, formless awareness of perfect love has itself promised that it will be revealed to all who ask for it. You are asking now. You cannot fail because it cannot fail. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Very comforting.
Yeah.
Saying you can't fail, it's a done deal. Just be willing. Be willing to listen to these words, practice these exercises, and it is yours because it's your true state. It's your natural state of awareness that is just waiting for you to ask for it again. Yeah, this is what I want. I choose this and only this. Lay all false beliefs and self-images aside. Could actually change that. Just looking at how we might improve that. We could change that to let go of all self-belief. So instead of lay all false beliefs and self-images aside, you'll say let go of all false. I think that's better. Let go of. Just a bit more direct. To let go of all false beliefs and self-images, and then we don't need the side bit. That's all he's asking us to do. So say if you let go of all false beliefs and self-images, all that's going to be left is this pure formless awareness of perfect love. So it's the cutting away. It's instead of trying to go back to the initial thing we talked about, personal growth. The idea of that is you're gonna create a better self. You're not quite okay as you are, but if you do this and you achieve various things and you have various things, you're going to be a better self, and then you'll be happy. So it's kind of just more of the same false self concept. The idea is you'll be happier if you have a bigger, better false self, which of course is not ultimately going to work. But this is just saying, no, cut away all of that, drop all the false beliefs and the self-image that those false beliefs create, and then what reveals itself will be the truth of who you really are. So it's a cutting away process rather than an adding to process, a letting go process rather than I need to become something else. And that's a very profound difference in how you approach things. Assumption is you're already perfect. You just need to let go of the covering, a bit like a sculpture. They asked Michelangelo how he did how he sculpted the David. He said, well, I just cut away what wasn't David. It's that idea. Cut away what's not you, and what reveals itself as the true self. And you're already perfect. You don't have to make yourself perfect. So it gets over the idea of, well, if I keep working and I keep striving and trying, one day I'll get there. One day I'll have the perfect self. This is what the ego is telling you. And of course, that's never going to be the case, because it's just more false beliefs that are now covering over this true self of your pure formless awareness. So you're actually going in the wrong direction. It's just a more grandiose false self. which ultimately is going to lead you to despair. Did you ever watch that Marisa Peer video? I'm not sure
Yeah, that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
because then she's saying, okay, so this is the ego's version of salvation, and these people have done this, these celebrities, and they're really not happy. It hasn't brought them the happiness they thought it would, because they've tried to construct a better false self, and that better false self just makes them more miserable. So the only way out is to let go of all of that and accept I am enough as I am right now. That's the only answer. It's never going to come in the future.
To me, it's like if somebody's lacking money or they haven't got a home, they can blame that for their unhappiness. But once you're rich and you've got this fantastic home and you can go anywhere and buy anything, then you've got no excuses not to be happy. And then it's like, darn it, now what, isn't it?
Now what? Yeah, and that's what she says. They hit the limits of that thought system and they go, okay, I've done this. I thought I'd be happy when I arrived. I've arrived and I'm really not happy. In fact, I'm more miserable than at least 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was, striving. I had a goal. I was like, okay, well, yes, I feel motivated because I've got the goal and I'm going to get there. And now I've arrived, and this is supposed to be, happiness, and I find that I'm just really not happy. I'm actually more unhappy than ever, and there's nowhere to go because I've done it. It's like, well, right, what am I going to do? Have another Ferrari? Buy some more fancy clothes? Have another failed relationship? Do some more drugs? Whatever. Like, where do I go with this? So the idea of more is better. Just they hit the limits of that, and then they go to Marisa and says, okay, well, let's start. We need to deconstruct this. We need to unpack this, and get you to start believing that you are enough, irrespective. Doesn't matter what. And that's why her therapy works, because she's getting them to go into their essence and connect with that and say, who are you really beyond all of the illusions? And if they listen and they do it, they feel a lot happier. And then, the money and it's like, okay, well, that's actually it's not the source of my happiness. Doesn't mean I have to, give all my money away and stop my career as an actor or whatever they are. But that's not primary. That's not the source of my happiness anymore. The source of my happiness is internal. And so then a lot of them actually, find they carry on doing what they're doing, and they find the joy again in what they're doing, because it's not about, the ego is not dominating it. It's not about the false self-concept that's being perpetuated through what they're doing. It's more like, actually I can enjoy this. Like, why do you want to act? Why do you want to sing? Because there's an expression there, it's a self-expression, and it can be directed by the Spirit. So the Holy Spirit then just reinterprets what they're doing and says, oh, well, I'll use this for the purposes of awakening. So you don't have to actually change the form of what you're doing, just change how you do it. In many instances. So it's powerfully, profoundly transformative, and money just cannot do this for you. No amount of money will do this. You could have all the riches in the world and be completely miserable. Or you can be very poor. If you go and you look at a lot of very poor societies, and they're actually very happy people, because they're simple. They live in the now. There's not a lot of expectations, and they're contented with what they have. And interesting, if you notice what happened in a lot of these societies, as soon as Western culture comes in, I watched a program on Tibet, or was it Nepal? It was one of those. And before the West really came in, everyone was kind of contented. They had nice houses, and then the West comes in and they introduce all the stuff that you want. Desire comes in, and the degrading of it in like a decade. They showed like the change in that society just from the change in thinking. People then became discontented. It's like, oh, no, I want what's shown to me, these flashy images on TV, and what I'm seeing with all the marketing. I now become discontented with my way of life. And that discontent then seeps into society, and it creates all kinds of dysfunction. And that's just desire. That's exactly what the Buddha noticed. Desire, dukkha, coming in, because I'm desiring and I'm not content anymore with things as they are. Okay, so that kind of brings us to the practice, really. So the last one is just a practice. I am as God created me. I am a son eternally. Tell yourself that frequently. And then with anyone else, tell them that. You are as God created you. You are his son eternally. You are as perfect love extended you. You are its extension eternally. To remind yourself that this is who the person is. They are the extension of pure formless awareness, of perfect love. So don't see them as a body, don't see them as a personality. See them as that and that only, because that reminds you that this is who you are. You know, as you see others, so you see yourself. So this is why relationships are such a big learning area in the course, because as you see others, you're going to see yourself. It's inevitable. Okay, so any comments, thoughts, questions on the lesson? Shall we go into a meditation?
Yeah.
Okay. So just making yourself comfortable, putting yourself on mute. Great, you've both done that. So just sitting comfortably with feet shoulder width apart. Cup your hands in your lap, keep your back straight. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just connecting in with your heart space. One hand on your heart to bring your mind into the present moment. Just clench the sphincter muscle so you lock the energy in. Draw the energy up the spine into your heart center. Draw it up into the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. And just scan your mind. So notice any thoughts, any emotions, sensations going on. Particularly anything that feels at all limiting, negative, contracted, constricting. And you notice these thoughts and emotions and sensations. Just breathe in again to top yourself up. Breath creates some light, some awareness. Feel like you're surrounding these thoughts and emotions with a light awareness. Maybe you visualize light, maybe it's just a sense of lightness coming in. So there's an awareness that's beyond these thoughts and emotions. This is your higher awareness. It's able to simply rest in pure formless awareness as you were created. So say to yourself, I am as God created me, or I am as perfect love extended me. I am his son eternally, or I am its extension eternally. Breathe that in. Feel the power of these words. This source of who you really are is extending into your mind right now. This infinite, eternal, loving presence coming into your awareness again and reminding you this is who you are. And only this. There's nothing else. None of the egoic thoughts and emotions, fear and doubt, guilt and sin and attack, anger, rage, jealousy, and everything, all of that's just got to go. So whatever the constriction was, it's just like a dark cloud. You can imagine it as such, and you're just going to blow it away. Just letting it go with the breeze of your breath into the nothingness that it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And just rest here. In the peace and the stillness. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. Just accept right now that you are as God created you. Say, I am as God created me. I am as perfect love extended me. I feel the power of that, the connection to that source. I am as perfect love extended me. I am its extension eternally. I am its extension eternally. I am as perfect love extended me. Just accept that. Breathe it in to every pore, every cell of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. It's an all-encompassing statement of truth. Feel it in your heart. Feel it in your body. Feel it in your mind. And let it bring you into the state of pure formless awareness. There's no conscious thought necessary, no subject-object thought is necessary to be who you are. So just for a few minutes, surrender into the state of pure being, pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's what we call God. Just surrender into that inner state. Connect with your source. Let it shine through into your mind. A blazing light in which no dark clouds can exist. If any random thoughts that seem to distract you from this awareness crop up, it's going to release them. The breeze of your breath, blow them away. Remind yourself, I am as perfect love created me, or I am as perfect love extended me. I am its extension eternally. And then just rest. There's nothing to do, nowhere to go. Just rest in that presence of love that you are for the next few minutes of deep silence. If any thoughts come in, seemingly disturb this deep awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love, just observe them. Breathe into them. Imagine you breathing light in, or just a feeling of total love, perfect love. Remind yourself, I am as this love, perfect love, extended me right now. I am its extension eternally. If it's someone else you're thinking about in a less than loving way, remind yourself that this person, say to this person, you are as God created you. You are as perfect love extended you. I see you only in that light. I see your source. I see you really are. You are its extension eternally. Exhale the truth of that. Have a sense of letting go of any of these blocks. They're just blocks in your own mind, your own belief. Allowing this source of perfect love to extend through you to this person. So the blessing you give them is an extension of perfect love. As you extend it, you come to know that it is you, it is your source. You cannot extend what you don't have. So it comes through you. It's not really you doing it, it's just the source of infinite love. So you recognize that you are that love. You are as perfect love created or extended you. So just rest in that knowledge, because it is knowledge, for another couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence. So just gently coming back in this deep state of awareness. It's an awareness of the body and the breath and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just clenching your sphincter muscle to lock the energy in. The energy drawing up the spine to your heart center. You put one hand in your heart. Notice the feeling in your heart. Draw the energy up into the crown of your head. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. And just observe any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on, particularly anything that feels negative, limited, contracted, constricted in any way. Remind yourself that I am still as love created me. I am as perfect love created me or extended me. I am its extension eternally. So is everyone else. Blow those thoughts out. The breeze of your breath into the nothingness that they really are. Let it all go. Surrender it all. And just sink inwards in this peace between breaths. Really feel this presence, perfect love, just anchored into your awareness. Just stay there for the next few hours. So on the count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair and your feet touching the ground. Notice what you are feeling with your hands, touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose. Notice what you're hearing, surrounding environments. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm and surrendered state of mind. Just anchor this state in. Find yourself, I am as God created me, I am as perfect love extended me. I am its extension eternally. This is the truth of my being. I affirm it. I feel it. I stay rooted in this awareness. So it is said, so it is done. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, noticing the various objects in the room in this state of awareness. So it doesn't really matter what you look upon with your eyes, the awareness remains unchanged. So have a sense of that. Doesn't matter what you see, look at various objects randomly just for a few seconds each, move on to something else. If you're not judging them, naming them, labeling them, interpreting them, then what you're aware of is the same awareness as you had when your eyes were closed. A deep, peaceful, connected awareness. It feels peaceful, it feels comforting, it feels good. So this is your true awareness. This is perfect love extending you right now in real time. So to stay connected to this, practice today's idea frequently. Jesus recommends every hour. Remind yourself, I am as perfect love extended me. I am as God created me. Use whichever form of that works better for you. I am its his son or its extension eternally. I've sent you some breath breaks to help you practice that. So listen to the 2-minute one. Some instructions to do it in under a minute with a bit of breath work. So practice well and join us this evening. We'll do another meditation on the lesson, and we'll get into the text reading for today, which is the attraction of love for love. This is very appropriate for our lesson. So I hope to see you a little bit later.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. You're going to join us later, Sally, or not?
No, not this evening. No. I'll see you next time, whenever that is.
Yeah.
All right.
See you tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay. Bye for now.